Hello there, colorful creators. Make sure you have all of your supplies from your supply list gathered up and ready to go. For step 1 of our project, we are going to work on a page layout. In step 2, we will begin to create swirls on the background of our foil. In step 3, we will begin to print on our paper from the paint on the foil. And for step 4, we will repeat this process of layering paint and printing on our paper. And step 5, we will create a cute little town from paper and glue it onto our paper. All right, let's get started. So I have a piece of foil here, and then I also have a piece of blue construction paper. So you make sure that you have a piece of foil, and typically you want this to be a little bit bigger than your construction paper. And then you want to go ahead and grab a paper plate, or if you're using a paint palette, that works as well, but I like using a paper plate for easy cleanup. And then you can also grab all of your acrylic paint that you're going to be working with too. And I have this blue that I have here, and it's a medium shade blue, a yellow paint, and then also a darker blue as well, and then a gold paint, and then a white paint too. So these different colors are going to help to create the layered Starry Night inspired artwork for today. And then you'll also want a handful of Q-tips to apply the paint, and then a black permanent marker too. So once you have your black marker, we're going to first begin by tracing around our paper, so that way we know where to apply the paint. And this is just on the foil here. So we're not tracing on the paper, but we're tracing around the paper, just all the way on the foil to give a nice shape. So that way we know how big our paper is, and we can apply our paint inside of that line. So that way whenever we go to print, we aren't having any paint or any bit that we are wanting to include onto the paper get left out. Now to begin, go ahead and pick up your medium shade of blue paint that you have. Give that a nice good shake, get all those colors mixed up, and then put that on your paper plate. You can also begin to shake up that dark blue as well. Put some paint on your paper plate again. Something that I like to always keep in mind whenever I am painting is to always apply a little bit of paint, and then I can get more. Sometimes we get really excited and we want to apply a ton of paint at the beginning, and then we can end up wasting a lot of that paint and getting thrown away if we don't use it. So just apply a little bit, and then you can always add more. And then in addition to those two blue paints on the paper plate, I also put some white paint there as well. I'm not doing anything with the yellow or the gold at the moment. We're just focusing on the blue paints. Once your blue paint is on your paper plate, you can go ahead and grab a Q-tip and start dipping it into your paints and begin swirling it around on your foil background. And this is where it's going to come really in handy to have that rectangle that was drawn of the size of your paper, so that way we know to work inside of that rectangle, because that's where we're going to be printing and the paper will line up with that. So begin to add some really nice swirl movements. I'm just adding a few, one in the top right hand corner, and then one in that kind of middle left hand corner as well. And with the swirls, I'm just picking up enough paint to create that nice swirl effect on the foil. I'm not picking up a ton and globbing on the paint. I'm not trying to get it super globby and thick. I'm just wanting to have enough coverage so that way it's seen. And I also really love working with the Q-tips because, again, it gives that really nice movement, and you can see all of the individual brush strokes. Even though this isn't an actual paintbrush, it still gives a really nice effect that is very similar to the Vincent van Gogh Starry Night piece that we are working in from the inspiration of for this project here. So add some of those different swirls. They can be small swirls or big swirls. They can kind of swirl around each other, but fill up all of that top portion of your rectangle section that you have outlined on your foil. And currently I am also just working with the dark blue because I'm wanting to layer my blues onto each other. So you can just work with your dark blue at the moment and just create those nice big swirls all over that foil. And now that we are getting towards the bottom portion of the foil, I'm just going to kind of smooth out some of those swirls so they're not so much of a circular motion, but it's more of a slight wave on the bottom to kind of just calm that section down, because this will kind of be the ground area. So the top section is going to be the sky and the bottom section will be more of the ground. So I am just smoothing those out a little bit and not putting so many big swirls on the bottom and just doing more of a light wave. All right, now that I have that layer done, I am going to grab my blue construction paper and very carefully place it and line it up around the edges and smooth that all down on the aluminum foil. Now this is going to create a nice print effect on the construction paper and transfer over all of that really fun swirl paint that we applied onto the foil. So put that on the foil, smooth it all out, and then very carefully you're going to want to peel it back and it will reveal that nice layered work that you did. So you can see mine that I did there, and obviously we're going to be layering that and repeating that process over and over again to really build up all of those swirls to give that Starry Night effect. All right, now that we have done that darker layer, I'm going to be dipping into the lighter paint of the blue. So you can go ahead and dip in that lighter paint. I'm dipping between that mid-tone blue and some of the white as well, so it can lighten it up just a little bit. And I'm following the same swirl patterns that we did before. So I'm just building on top of that and just moving in the same motion. Now, the reason why you don't want to start adding more additional swirls and going in a different pattern is it will kind of muddle up all of the beautiful swirls that you already created. So by applying in the same motions and the same movements, whenever we do the print again on the paper that already has those swirl patterns, it will help to define those swirl patterns that already exist even more and make them pop further. So go ahead and apply that mid-tone blue and those lighter blue colors in the same motions and that same pattern that you already did with the darker blue. And once you have completely added the lighter blue colors throughout all of your aluminum foil and all of those swirls, you're going to want to get your paper ready again. So this is the same paper that you printed with before that you hopefully set aside and was untouched, and you're going to get that again and you're going to print it once again on the same side and the same way that you did it, the same orientation. So set it on the aluminum foil, press on the back, and repeat that same process, and you're going to peel it up slowly once you have firmly pressed on the back of that. All right, and we can see how those colors transferred over once again. So I always love doing prints like this because every time that you pull it off, it's kind of like a little surprise. You don't really know what you're gonna get, and it's really kind of cool to see the transfer in the print that is left. And now I'm just going to be adding another blue tone into the piece here. So this is just a little bit of it's a dark blue, but it's very bright within the pigmentation. And so I'm just going to be adding that, and again, repeating the same process. So if you have other blue acrylic paint, you can just pick that up and repeat in the same process of applying it on your aluminum foil, filling in some of those areas and working in the same pattern. And for this color, I'm just currently applying that onto the bottom portion. So again, the big swirls are more on the top, the 2/3 bigger part of the aluminum foil here, and then that bottom 1/3 is just going to be more of the ground, and it's those smooth wavy lines, if you recall. And we're going to be applying some of that other blue color just on those wavy lines on the bottom section, just to give a little bit more definition and to layer that up more. And now that I had finished with the bottom section, adding that additional blue color, I'm just adding a little bit more of that blue onto the sky portion of our Starry Night picture, just to define those swirls even more and to add a little bit more definition. And now that we have all that paint applied once again, we're going to grab our construction paper and press that on the aluminum foil to make another print. So make sure you follow those same steps, line up the area, firmly press on the back, and then slowly peel it up to reveal another addition to your Starry Night picture. All right, now that we have added that other layer, we're gonna go back in once again and just add more blue swirls on this. And so every time that you peel off that paper, that construction paper, you can always look at it and see if there's any areas that are gapping or that need some more paint applied to it. It really just depends on your picture. Every picture will be unique within this process. So don't feel like you have to follow me exactly. Your picture is going to be completely unique to you. Yes, we are working from an inspiration from one picture, from Vincent van Gogh, which is a Starry Night picture. But from that artwork, we're being inspired and we're creating our own unique artwork from it. And it will be unique to every single one of us. So don't feel like you have to copy me exactly. Don't be discouraged if it doesn't look exactly like mine. That's okay. Your artwork is unique to you, and that's what makes it so special. So take that pressure off of yourself and just enjoy the process of just creating these beautiful swirls and just enjoying this time of creating. Now I'm just going to be doing another print now that I added that other layer onto my foil here, and you can do these print layers at your own pace. Don't feel like you have to follow me exactly. If you have your layer complete of paint, then you can apply that. If you don't feel like you have to rush and hurry along. If you feel like your picture has enough layers on it, you can go ahead and skip to our next step where we'll be doing it and adding that yellow and that gold onto our picture. But again, work at your own pace and rate and speed, okay? So don't feel like you have to stick with me exactly, but I'm just pulling up this other print here to reveal just another layer on my paper that I have. And I'm just loving how these prints are coming up every single time. They're so colorful and they just have so much movement going on, and I absolutely love the texture within it. All right, now that I feel that I have enough blue layers going on in my project, and again, if you feel like you have enough layers, then you can move along with me where I'll be adding the yellow and the gold. If you are still working on adding your blue layers, that's totally fine. Pause the video and hit play whenever you're ready to add your yellow and gold. But for right now, I'm gonna continue. So go ahead and put a little bit of yellow paint and gold paint on your paper plate, and then we are going to start adding in that color on our foil. And for this, you'll want to go ahead and pick up a clean Q-tip, just so you're not making a whole bunch of green with your Q-tip that already had some blue on it. So pick up a clean Q-tip and then begin to add some of that yellow into the middle of each of those swirls. And I'm not mixing it up. Again, if you start mixing that yellow around a lot with the blue that's already on the foil, it will just create a whole lot of green. And we want that pigmentation to stay pretty bright yellow. So I'm not mixing it a lot, so you can kind of just put a little dollop or a little swirl right in the sections of the middle of your swirls, and then move on and just make sure that you have that color dispersed within all of the middle of your swirls. You can also add some white around it too, to help lighten that area as well. So dip between the yellow and the white, and then here in a little bit we will also add the gold. Okay, all right, now that I have the yellow on the center of all of the swirls and blended that out, I'm gonna pick up my construction paper that we have been printing on and going to print once again onto it from the foil and put it down on there, firmly press on the back, and then slowly peel it up to reveal the addition with those yellow swirls in the middle. Oh my goodness, this is just looking so good. I love the addition with the yellow. So I hope yours is also looking really great and you're enjoying that process, being able to reveal all of those little additions with the paints and the layers. And now that we had added the yellows, we're going to start working on adding another layer with the gold. So pick up a Q-tip once again and then start working in a little bit of that gold. And I am working on the gold just on the shape of the swirls, so swirling those around, not necessarily in the middle per se, but just swirling it within the sky and just kind of working that movement around through the sky section. You can work between your gold paint and also your white paint as well. So pick up both of those paints and start adding some more brush strokes and swirl movements throughout your picture. And now that we have added more gold and white swirls, we're going to pick up our construction paper once again and press it firmly on the foil to reveal another print and apply that. So go ahead and grab that construction paper, the one that you've been printing on, line it up. Make sure that you're also being very careful with it because it might be a little bit wet with the paint that has been on it. Hopefully it's not too wet though. And you're going to just firmly apply that onto the aluminum foil and then slowly peel that back. All right, grab that Q-tip once again, dip it in your gold paint and repeat that same process. So you're gonna dip it in there and then add those swirls all around all of your existing swirls, and then we're gonna get it ready to make another print on our paper. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up my paper here and do another print from the foil. I absolutely love how that gold metallic paint is really picking up the light and sparkling like that. Super pretty. All right, now I'm going to again get another clean Q-tip and start dipping in the white paint and then applying that onto the bottom 1/3 section, which is going to be our ground area. So not in the sky area where we have all those big swirls. It's going to be that bottom section where we have more of those slight waves. And I'm just going to be applying some more paint in there. So some white, and then I'm also putting a little bit more blue just to build up the color in that, because whenever I look at my picture and how it is looking, it just needs a little bit more paint and layers on the bottom section. So at this point, you can really look at your picture and judge how it's looking. I obviously cannot be with you to tell you what you may or may not need, but you know how to do the process. We're just doing the same steps. We're applying the paint in the same movements and motions, and then we're just printing it onto our piece of construction paper. So repeat that process wherever you feel like you need more paint. Do it however you would like. If you feel like you need more or you need less, do that however. So again, this process is unique to you. Enjoy the creative process, make it unique to you, make your masterpiece however you would like. And I'm just printing my paper once again on the foil just to have that additional layer of paint on there. And I'm just going to continue this process and repeat it over and over until I feel like my masterpiece is the way that I want it to. So go ahead and do that for yourself. Layer on the paint. This project with printing is all about layering. So put those layers on there. If you need a reference as to our original inspiration of Vincent van Gogh's artwork, you can always pull up a picture of that. As you can see, he has so much brushwork and layering in his picture, and so we're just adding all of that movement and that layering and texture into our artwork as well. All right, now at this point, I am very happy with the way that my picture looks. I love all the layers and the colors, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside until it's completely dry and then clean up my workspace. So once your picture is dry and it's complete, then we're going to move on to the next step where we're going to cut out some little houses and towns and make a little paper city down for the bottom section of our picture. So make sure that your picture is dry before you do move on to this step, as we don't want to be gluing onto wet paint, as it might mess up our picture and then make quite a bit of a mess. So make sure it is dry. And then from there, you're going to grab some black construction paper, a pair of scissors, and a yellow crayon. Now with your black construction paper, you can kind of hold it up and size it to your picture, and you're going to begin to use your scissors just to cut some cute little houses. So these don't have to be anything complex. They're more of just a black silhouette of a house. We're not adding a ton of detail, we're just adding a simple shape. So for mine, I'm just adding some rectangles, and they may be angled on the top for a roof, or they may be flat, but they're just going to be some different sizes. So they could be bigger rectangles, smaller rectangles, squares, they could be tall, they could be short, and that is totally up to you. So go ahead and cut some different shapes for your houses, and you can kind of lay those out on your paper as well. And I'm not gluing anything down at the moment, but I'm just placing them where I would like them to be, so that way I know about how many houses to cut out, and then I can move them around if needed. And I'm just adding houses of different sizes as well. They're not all the same. If you want your houses to be the same, you can do that, but I liked adding a little bit of variety because I feel like it makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. And now I'm just arranging those houses and spacing them out to the way that I feel like they look the best. And so once you have your houses all cut out, kind of space them out before you glue them down. Once you do glue them down, it's going to be a little bit harder to move things around and a little bit messier too. So get your placement down before you put glue on your houses, and it will be much easier. And then once you do get your glue, you can just put a little bit of glue on the back and then place it exactly, confidently knowing where it's going to go. And now that I have the placement of my houses down, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my yellow crayon and add some simple detail onto each one of the houses. And I'm just adding a little yellow marks on the houses to represent windows as a glow, like a light coming from the inside of them. And so you can add that. It's nothing crazy or detailed. It's just little tiny notches on the house on the front of them. And just make sure that you add that onto all of your houses. And it's also important to do that step before we start gluing, because once we have glue on the back, they might be a little bit softer, that paper a little bit softer until it dries, and making it a little bit harder to actually apply that crayon on there. So make those little window marks before you glue. If you have already glued, it's okay, don't worry, it will still work. It's just sometimes we look for the easier way of doing things. You can always let that glue dry and then go back with your crayon afterwards, and it might be a little bit easier to make those marks. All right, with all those windows drawn on, go ahead and grab your glue and we're just going to begin to stick those down onto our paper. And remember that it does not take a lot of glue. I'm just putting a thin amount along each one of the edges and a little bit in the middle here. It does not take a lot. Once we start getting a lot of glue, it becomes very goopy and it's also very wasteful. We can make our art supplies go much further if we are sparing on them and use the only the necessary amount on that. So I'm put a little bit of glue on the back and then just firmly pressing that down onto the picture. And just repeat this step until you have all of your little houses glued down onto your paper to create this super cute little town with this Starry Night. Alright, and here's my last and final little house being glued down. I hope you enjoyed creating this really fun Starry Night inspired art project with me and learning about our featured artist Vincent van Gogh and his life and his work. If you like this video, go check out some of our other courses. You can also find us on YouTube and social media. We would love to see your beautiful masterpiece, so make sure that you tag us in your artwork so that way we can see the wonderful creation that you made. So we will see you next time, and thank you so much for creating with me, and don't forget, stay colorful.